Chapter 5 is basically discussing child care needs and how to meet those from infancy through school age. We're going to sort of briefly go through the chapter on this video and have you read the chapter on your own a little bit more in depth. Basically what we're looking at here is the historical change in family makeup was a huge piece in how child care needs began to change. And we've been talking about that as we go through each one of the sections. We keep bringing that up, from the agrarian families where everyone lived on the farm to industrialization when people started working outside the home. During World War II, lots of women went to work because they had to, and so on and so forth. As times changed, we had more need for child care. The availability of childcare is another enormous issue, and middle-class families, basically, there was what they call a market-based system. So if people needed it, for-profit childcare centers started to become available. So that was what started going on in the late 80s and early 90s. Again, we have a lot of center-based care now as opposed to what we used to have. It used to be a lot of family care and those types of things. So again, that has all changed. The availability of childcare has changed as we move through. Financing childcare can be a very interesting piece. Most of the cost for any kind of out-of-home care is taken care of by the individual families. And as most of you may well know, it can be very costly to have a child in child care. Again, low-income families very often spend up to 16% of their income on child care, and that's an enormous amount of money to have them come out. The families with a higher income bracket spend only 6% of their income for child care. So that's a really great difference when you look at those two perspectives. So again, when we talk about child care needs and all of these different pieces, you can see how that certainly can come into play. One of the other things that we need to take a very close look at is the quality of care that's available. And again, can be an extreme problem for low-income families. Again, it's very difficult for them to pay for what might be a better quality child care facility for their children to stay in. So again, the quality of care can often be substandard for those that can't really afford it. We have multiple types of care that are available for children, and we'll take a look at those briefly here, and again, read over this in your chapter. In-home care is basically care that takes place in the child's home. It's unregulated, so it really isn't taken care of or overseen by anyone, and you can think of things in terms of like a babysitter, those types of things. Again, the caregiver might even be a live-in. They can be an employee of the family and those types of things. They can be an au pair, all those different options for in-home care, nannies, all kinds of things that go on. Family child care is a little bit of a different story, and this basically started out as an extension of moms caring for their own children, and then they started watching other people's children as well to make a little bit of money. Family child care is something that may be regulated, or it may be someone doing it independently. There is a National Association for Family Child Care, and some people can belong to that and abide by those rules and regulations. So the other one that we have is child care centers, which is probably what most of us are familiar with in terms of early care arrangements. And there are such a wide range of options available, and you'll see what those are in your book. Another thing we'd like to bring up here is school age care, and that is when children are at the end of the school day, they have nowhere to go because parents are still working, and they may go to a center where they have school-age care available. So that makes it nice. It's not only an after-school program, but this can also be a before-school program as well. And some children actually get breakfast and those types of things, and they get a bus to school from the school-age care facility. So it can be very, very helpful for those that need that type of service. Licensing and accreditation is the last thing we're going to cover in this chapter. And again, there are some extra things in there that I would like you to go take a look at and read. But these are the highlights of the chapter. And the first one that we're going to look at is the NAFCC, or the National Association for Family Child Care. And again, they are basically looking at family child care providers. So that's kind of how that works. And again, it's a method to accredit family child care facilities. NAEYC, again, you've heard that term because our program is NAEYC accredited, but they also accredit preschools, kindergartens, child care centers, and school-age child care programs. So they have multiple facets of accreditation that they do. And again, it's the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And there's usually a very huge process that people go through doing accreditation and licensing types of things. And it would be a good idea for you to take a look at Chapter 5 and just take a look at the requirements for the accreditation process and see how extensive those actually are. And again, all states have some type of regulation. So it's one of those things that's a very good thing that we need to have. And occasionally there are some places that slip through the cracks, and we do find some very unfortunate incidents that do happen. And again, we're looking at the fact that childcare is typically now provided outside the home. And again, collaborative efforts can be really, really important with community-based organizations to help share the burden of childcare. And what we need to be aware of is the fact that we have to have quality childcare available for all families, regardless of what their income may be.